Hey, 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 what's up, Bird Gang? I'm on one today. I got a lot to talk about, especially after that loss over the weekend. Welcome to Birds of a Feather. It's your girl, AJ, the Suburban Princess here. I was really not prepared mentally for them, the Birds, my Philadelphia Eagles, to be all up in that game. I really expected them to just get tossed back and fro like a ball in a ping pong game. But honestly, they showed a little bit of fight and somehow in the process forgot to run LeGarrette Blount any more than the one time that they did. And they decided to make Darren Sproles a blocker as well as a runner, which he should only be limited to so many reps. But anyway, welcome back to another edition of Birds of the Feather. I don't know about you, but it's Wednesday and I am so already ready for Giants week. I mean, I'm praying that they come out with the black jerseys just to get us further engaged in this weekend's game, because not only is it the first home game of the season and it's the third week, they got 6 more weeks to prove themselves before the bye, but I'm just praying and hoping that Dougie will listen to our pleas. We had fans last week lined up in front of NovaCare with a sign that says, "Run the damn ball." And now you got people making memes all over Twitter about it. I mean, come on, Dougie Fresh. Can you listen? Can we not have another 14-year season of a coach that wants to do his own thing and not listen to the people until it's too late? I want Dougie to be of the people. I want him to be a fans coach as well as a players coach. And it looks like he's very good at being a players coach, but I don't know if he'll ever be a fans coach because he will never learn from his mistakes without repeating them. I'm praying that this Sunday, actually, I'm not even going to pray. I'm just going to say, honestly, I do believe their game against the Giants is mandatory with a W and not an L, because there's no reason why the Eagles should lose to the Giants, because the Giants pretty much put up a very pathetic showing this past Monday night against the Detroit Lions. So, with that said, welcome to another edition of my thoughts here. Honestly, I mean, we all knew that the team would look pretty green. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Forgive me of the pun. But you really thought they were going to walk into Kansas City and strut just like they've been playing as a team for like 4 more seasons? I mean, hell, Andy Reid's been a coach for 5 seasons in Kansas City, and he already got 2 crazy power back running styles in Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill. I mean, Tyreek the Freak, I already knew from seeing him in highlights last year that he should definitely be on my fantasy football team, and he is. And he's helping me get some points every week, I have to remind you. But it looks like now that this week coming is going to be the litmus test. I didn't think it was a litmus test the first game. I didn't think it was a litmus test this game, because I honestly didn't think they were going to win it. But to be within 7, knowing that you actually had a shot to win once they got the onside kick, that was just craziness. But Carson shouldn't have to throw 40 more times a game. You know, he's that close to throwing out his shoulder, next time becoming just like Andrew Luck on the sidelines for the whole following year. So let's not have that go down. We need to have a 24, 30, whatever stat for him, and just as much of a running game as much as a passing game. The running should really set the tone, and then the passing should finish it off. But who knows? I'm not a coach. I'm just a fan. I'm just a girl who just wants to see my team win in a clean fashion without making me feel like I'm going to throw up halfway through the game. I mean, let's just be honest. Carson wasn't at his best, and I'm not afraid to be constructively critical of Carson. But there were some throws that were over people's heads, and there were some throws, I don't even know why he even made them or why he even took a sack. I mean, the smartest thing he can do, though, is get out of being sacked if he has an opportunity to have time to run. And when he does run, he's smart. He goes out of bounds, or he takes the first down and just, collapses to the ground. I do think he has great instincts, and I do think he's our future. And I'm not afraid to say that. I do think Carson Wentz is a future. But there are certain rookie things he's still got to shake off. He's still got to shake that devil off. There are still signs of him kind of being indecisive, or maybe him and Dougie not being on the same page. Because I think there were even times during the game where I felt like a little bit of attitude came out of Carson once there was a timeout that Dougie called for whatever dumb reason. I want Dougie to look confident on the sidelines. Mikey Miss was just talking about this today and yesterday on his show about how he doesn't look over when they show Doug and see a confident coach planning his next move. You see a man that's trying to figure out whether every move is going to be worth it, or should I do this or should I not do it? It's like he's having a chess match with himself. Meanwhile, Andy Reid been over there, veteran as he is, looking calm as a cucumber, cool as a cucumber, excuse me. And I think by the end of the halftime, he actually generated a smirk because he probably saw that he was about to wipe out all of the little hope that the Eagles had for coming back in that game. But they did seem to like to fixate on Jim Schwartz a lot during that game, too. I was watching from a hotel room on vacation in Ocean City, and I have to admit, most of that game did not have me as nervous as the fourth quarter did, because I really thought that it would just be a clean, cut this game, let's just count this as a loss and go home. I didn't think they would have me on the edge of my seat, thinking that they could possibly win. I mean, granted, every week they should feel like they should win, but I just felt like there were so many odds against them. And then when they lost the two cornerback guys, I kind of just felt like, even though those weren't big names to me, I kind of felt like it was probably a good thing, because then maybe our boy Corey Clement, who's on special teams, will now move up a little bit if LeGarrette Blount doesn't get himself together by this weekend. If LeGarrette Blount still has all the runs and still doesn't break tackles fast enough, I'm going to be convinced he's too old and they're going to have to sit him down. I really never lose faith in Darren Sproles. He amazes me, as people want to make him seem like he's 45 years old. He's really like still an Energizer Bunny once you give him holes. I mean, homeboy was blocking better than Isaac Seumalo was on the left side. So if you can have Darren Sproles not be afraid to block, and I don't think Corey Clement, hint, hint, is afraid to block, those two, I would feel confident as my two running backs for the season. I'm fine with that. And then put in Smallwood when it's absolutely emergency, or someone's on an injury, or if you have a 1 yard run. I don't know. But I don't see Smallwood being 1 and Darren 3 and Corey Clement 2. I see Corey Clement being 2, Darren Sproles being 1, and Smallwood being 3. And I guess the fourth guy they'll probably have to find now at this point, because LeGarrette Blount may not be in the conversation. I mean, even though they didn't ask him about why he wasn't on the field as much, and he kind of made it seem like it was all Doug's, choice. But the writing's on the wall. Anytime we get a Patriot player, there's nothing left in the tank. We never usually get a find from the Patriots. We usually get their leftovers, because they're not serving them probably financially to be on the roster anymore. So you have to think about any time that the Eagles get anybody from a really good team on our team. Yes, we have a lot of first-year veterans. Torrey Smith showed a little bit of rust this weekend with a lot of drop balls that could have been either touchdowns or at least really good yards after the carry. So yards after catch. So I think that the only one who really honestly stood out on the offense besides Carson, minus some of his crazy throws, was Zach Ertz. And Zach Ertz is finally quietly getting himself up there as a more reliable target. I still wish he wouldn't fall so quickly. I really wish he would just get the ball and just bust his way through some of the guys and get that first down and more. I hope that he builds his confidence up, because I think sometimes, like most guys, they don't want to get hurt, especially because Zach had a major sports injury last year that took him out, and then he had a concussion. So maybe he feels like it's not worth it. Maybe he feels like, if I know I got Brent on the other side, why do I have to kill myself? But if you're trying to be the best tight end in the NFC East, or at least the NFC, you need to man up a little bit. And I love Zertz, but I feel like when I look at his wife, she has 10 times more guts. I mean, she's lifting up her teammates, after a soccer win for the United Women's soccer team. So as far as I'm concerned, I look at Julie and I want to say, tell your man to man up just a little bit more. Because I really feel like, as much as I do adore him as a player, more for his looks, I'm not going to lie, as I'm a female, but I do feel like he shows a little bit more every year as long as he's not hurt. But he also gives people a lot of reason to still feel like he's never going to get up to that Tony Gonzalez, Tonio Gates, Greg Olsen status, but he's not them. He's Zach Ertz. So I feel like the little by little that we see of him more and more, and he catches consistently, sky's the limit for him. And I hope to God he can be that tight end, because I'm hoping he can pick up where LJ Smith left off and never continued. So I'm just praying that Ertz keeps it up, and hopefully his wife has given him encouragement along the way, because I'm a fan, but sometimes I gotta call a spade. And then not only do I thank the Detroit Lions for exposing how weak the Giants are, I'm praying that whatever the Giants decide to do that might help this team become somewhat dominant against the Eagles this weekend doesn't work, because Ben McAdoo seems like he's a waste of time. Eli seems like he's getting old, if not older. The O-line obviously doesn't want to protect Eli. So I think Fletcher Cox and Vinny Curry and Jernigan and all those guys are going to eat well this weekend. I'm just hoping they don't break Eli. And I just hope that the offense shows up as much as the defense is anticipated to. And I pray that the black jerseys make a return. If not, the midnight green, I'm fine with that. I'm just so sick of the white. I mean, all white is ridiculous. At least do white and green pants if you're obsessed with the white. But I'm praying to God it's the black. Usually they announce it like tomorrow or maybe Friday. They'll announce that they're going to do black jerseys. But sometimes they also like to save that for the Monday night games or the Thursday night. But I'm praying it's because it's the first home game of the season and it's the third week that they would like to spice up ratings and just have the Eagles finally wear black. I just feel like that's more of a... Usually every time they wear black and they're against the Giants, it's really a dangerous game. I mean, Carson, his first year when they wore black, they shut the Giants out. So I wouldn't be shocked if we have kind of a 35-14 type of win. It'll be good. If they get more than 20 points, I'll be happy. I don't think they should be anywhere as close as they were with the Redskins, because the Redskins always play them hard even when the Redskins suck. So I wasn't shocked by that score, but because the Redskins were just not on their game that week. But the Giants sometimes make those annoying surgences, and especially if OBJ is feeling himself and gets cocky and gets open, which is highly possible unless they get some corner help along with Malcolm Jenkins that will get OBJ a little OBJ. I keep saying OBJ. Why? OBJ a little shook and unsure of his routes, but we'll see. I mean, as much as I love Malcolm Jenkins and he was all over the place last weekend, I don't feel like he has enough to sustain to block any of the wide receivers that come at him because he doesn't have that under help. So I think they're going to be struggling there, especially if OBJ starts finding a seam and he starts using it to his advantage. And if they expose and throw to someone who, I don't know, if it's Mills, because I don't really have faith in Jalen Mills all the time myself. I personally don't think he's that great. But until they get those stellar cornerbacks, whenever the heck that's going to happen, that's going to be an issue if OBJ starts seeing a seam. So hopefully they can get him confused and frustrated, which is highly possible. I mean, these type of games end up in a lot of flags anyway. Even if it's a 1 o'clocker, it'll probably be one of those games that'll be full of flags. But I usually don't drop scores, but I'm just going to throw it out there. I do think the Eagles will do another 30-point, 14-point game. So I won't be shocked if that's what it is. I won't be shocked if it's lower. Nothing shocks me as long as it's a win. And as far as the future right now, you know what? There's a lot of questions about whether or not Doug can confidently call good play calls. With all the hype I was talking about last show regarding the Jim Schwartz versus Doug thing, I refuse to buy into that because, Schwartz used to be a coach. So it's very easy for people to go there because he's been a coach for Detroit for so long. But I'm sure part of him knew it was definitely something to say goodbye to when he saw his former team win handily. So he has to move on. Who knows? Doug may be here for another 3 seasons. You just never know. I mean, the team may show so much more promise that Jeffrey Lurie is, as long as it's not a 7-9 or 8-8 season, he'll probably sign Doug for like 5 more seasons if he gets too excited. So you never know. I do feel like too, there's something about the excitement of every week and not knowing how every game plays out that still excites me as a fan. I really do feel like it's not laughable to watch this team. I feel like any minute that they could have this burst of energy, and even when it seems like even during last weekend's game that they were starting to lose a little steam, I still felt like there was fight there. And even though I was ready for the game to be over because I just always hate when you just know they're not going to come back that quickly in a short amount of time until they got that offsides kick. And then I kind of thought, wait a minute now. But it was like only 4 seconds. And, Carson had been trying to throw the deep ball all game and nothing was connecting. So honestly, people said that about Nick Foles when he played, that he couldn't throw the deep ball. It wasn't working for Carson over the weekend. I don't doubt he can't throw it, but he has yet to really connect with anybody. Last year, he just didn't have anybody to throw it to. You couldn't rely on Aguilar then. And now you can, but I think Aguilar is more confident being that guy up the middle or on the side. So until Carson hits that bomb, 54-yarder or whatever to the end zone, I'm not convinced he's a deep throw passer either. I really just think he's better straight up the field and dink and dunk here and there and then running to get a first down if he needs to. I like Carson when he hustles. I think Carson shows a lot of grit and no fear, and that's what he should have as a quarterback. He just never seemed shook, though. Even when that moment in the Detroit game last year where he seemed a little shook, he still managed to shake it off and still focus. You could never tell that he was losing his grip on the game. Now, mind you, Dougie probably on the other side probably thought he was going to throw up, but you have to give him props. I mean, this is Dougie's second year in. And I feel like last year was just a highlight of what it could become if everybody believes and trusts each other. And I think the trust is there, but I think the interview that supposedly everybody's trying to act like Ertz was throwing the coach under the bus, I think he was just being fed overall, the outlook saying that basically you're not going to be able to be productive when you have your quarterback throwing that many times you're not running the ball. So, and that ended up being an echoed sentiment all week so far. So I don't think Ertz said anything that everybody wasn't thinking, and it wasn't obvious. I don't think Doug maybe took it into consideration that maybe it looked bad. Maybe he thought he ran it enough with Sproles because Sproles did have the ball a lot more than he normally does. But they had no choice. I mean, at that point, Smallwood wasn't getting it done. And obviously Blount disappeared after the first half. So hopefully they'll start off a lot with Blount. Hopefully when they feel like he's not getting it, that they'll just suddenly start running him more and more just out of nowhere. And then, it'll wear the Giants defense down. But Giants defense is not necessarily razor thin. But I don't think that our offense is that weak that Carson can't get that support. Now, the rumor is apparently turned to today's practice that Isaac Seumalo sat, and Chance Warmack got a snap at the left tackle. So hopefully that means Chance will get his due, or maybe they're going to give Isaac another chance, and then if they feel like he's still shaky by second half, it'll be Chance Warmack in there. You never know. Who knows? They might be able to send some signals to Isaac to wake up. Of course, it's hard because you figure every week is a different team. There's going to be different push for every team. Where Kansas City may have knocked Isaac on his ass, the Giants or, Dallas may not give him that much problem. So sometimes you really can't say, oh, this player sucks, because it obviously wasn't that much of a problem in the Redskins game. But I still felt like Carson was rushed, and that's why some of his throws didn't make any sense during this past weekend's game. There were times I just think that sometimes he doesn't have a touch for the ball, and sometimes he just wants to just get it out of his hands. But he does need to work on speeding it up. And I thought they had said that they had worked that out with him over the off season. But, in moments like that where he has to act fast, sometimes he just resorts back to his old instinct. I mean, it won't take him long. I look at it this way. If by November or December, Carson is still not slowing himself down and not holding the ball as much, then that's just who he's going to be. We can't compare him to Brady. We can't make him be like Aaron Rodgers, but he can learn how to eventually to trust the pace of the game and just throw a little faster than he does. I understand why he waits. Part of it is obviously he must not see the players getting separation before he releases the ball, so that's why he holds it. To me, that's not necessarily always on him. I would think that that's on Aguilar, or that's on Torrey, or that's on Alshon to not get free, for him to be able to see them fast enough and snap the ball. Well, that being said, I want to also bring up a different subject that I didn't talk about last time that I wanted to, only because as a female, I think it's very important to understand why sports should not be just a male designated forum. We're in the age now where women go to clinics, they go to women festivals, they go to, all you can learn about building cars and fixing cars. And now you got women who got their own car garages. There's definitely a changing of the tide. And I think with that, I bring up the subject of Jemele Hill last week, who became this pariah of Twitter, in a political storm that erupted based on her comments about the current sitting president, Donald Trump, and labeling him a white supremacist. Now, I feel like at this point in my life, I know what a white supremacist is, but I'm at the point where I also know that there are people who bring a certain air to them, and then there are those who actually create that air themselves. I think that with Donald Trump, he is in a position where he never really had to be accountable for his words. And I think he's basically running his presidency day by day. I think he's learning on his feet. He's pretty much been fed the presidency by talking a lot of crap. And some of that crap people will never forget because it affects a lot more than just people he sees every day walking around with him in the White House. He's never had to probably deal with conflict with other races. He's probably never had to deal with people being upset by his words. He uses Twitter as his basic presidential forum, platform, which is pathetic. Because if anything we should learn from the past presidents is that even if Twitter was out there, I don't think any of those presidents would use that platform as much as he does. He abuses it, but he acts like a child anyway. And that's why I refuse to call him president. I just call him either Donald Trump or I call him by his number, which is 45. I don't feel like he has any respect for himself, much less women. And I think where this comes in with sports and women is that even though men have problems with women commentators and with the Beth Mowins, I think her last name was, who commentated with Rex Ryan 2 Thursdays ago during one of those games, and she got a lot of feedback on Twitter about how this wasn't necessary. People hate her voice, blah, 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 blah. I don't think it's groundbreaking in my own opinion because I feel like there are women commentators, but just never on a major network like ESPN. I'm sure they do women's basketball. I'm sure they do lacrosse. It's just the fact that when you see things that suddenly it becomes this big discovery, and it's really not. You know, we're just in the age of social media where every stupid thing that you do that you probably did any time before it was exposed on TV or Twitter or your phone. It's not a new concept of women loving sports, and it shouldn't be looked down upon because it's different. But again, in this age of 45, we should understand that anything that's different scares people. And hence why we have the Charlotte protests and why we've had a lot of killings against black kids and people of color and just crime all over the world being so more blatant and more obvious because we see everything and everything is such a visual now. And now you can't just hide under your blanket and pretend stuff doesn't happen to you. You have to see it. It's in your face every day. And so now we're putting light to a subject that's pretty much been always happening, just never publicized, with Jemele Hill speaking her mind over what's something that she said that really can't be argued against. He may not physically walk around with the title, I'm a white supremacist, I support Nazis, but he didn't necessarily look down upon the fact that these white Nazis were in the crux of all the Charlottesville protests and this unnecessary hate against other white people and people of color specifically. And the fact that he tried to say that a group of Nazis who were openly proud of their white power chants as a group of nice people, I have no problem with what Jemele had even put out there. To me, she stated an obvious fact, and I don't see why anybody else would have a problem with that. Now, granted, you're not going to be warm and fuzzy about it if you're in the White House currently. But again, if you didn't want to say anything about all these other people of color being killed down by cops who have power trips or cops that just don't know how to use a gun or how not to use a gun, then there should be no reason for you to have a problem with someone stating their own opinion on their own personal account on Twitter, as opposed to just deciding during their airtime to just out of nowhere just call the president a white supremacist. Yes, there's both still public forums, but it's how she worded it and how she put it out there. Yeah, Twitter does get us in trouble. It's gotten me in trouble with Facebook. Even if I didn't directly insult anybody from my job at the time, I was questioned about it and tried to, be forced into admitting that I was talking about someone, which I wasn't. I was actually doing a self-reflective post on Facebook. And it's just funny how people they always read into it more than you do. You may think that it sounds clever and just that way you don't get in trouble. You didn't say any names. You didn't drop any numbers. But people reading into it, to me, is more dangerous than people who blatantly get the message and just choose to ignore it. I think that people getting mad about what she said is ridiculous in its own way. Yes, she has a job, and yes, she represents ESPN. And for me, that is the only thing she should apologize for, is upsetting those at ESPN who felt offended. But again, she did it majestically. When she did apologize, she said her own personal feelings, and she's not apologizing for that. And I don't blame her. But I also don't think that men need to show their cowardice by masking it in machismo, by putting women down for having a love of sports. Whether or not they know as much as you and been loving sports as long as you have, doesn't necessarily mean they're inferior. And there's no need to belittle them. I think Beth did a great job working with Rex, and I think she actually made Rex look better, because I think Rex looked like a nervous wreck. I think she made him look way more smart than he normally sounds on a regular job, on a regular coaching job. Everybody likes Rex Ryan because he pops off at the mouth and he's inappropriate. But Beth looked very professional that night. Then you got the sideline reporters, who do their job well. But there seem to have been some cases in the past where they got abused or sexually harassed in the locker room. And that was just because it was different. And that's just because she wasn't a man. But then you wonder if some of the guys would feel uncomfortable if the male reporter was gay and outwardly proud of it. Do you think he would be in the locker room? No, he probably wouldn't. And even with the players that come out and just say they're gay in general, just to free themselves personally and spiritually and intellectually, a lot of the men don't want to talk about it. But God forbid you have a woman come out and actually discuss this. Guys try to make it sound like, so what? I mean, there were men that called in to Mike Missanelli and just wanted to downgrade the whole Jamel thing because they're like, who cares? It's ESPN. ESPN sucks anyway. Okay, so you're just going to ignore the fact that this has been talked about for 5 days straight and people hoping that her and Michael Smith get booted off the show because it sucks? Does it suck, or is it just that it's different that scares you? Because God forbid you try to do anything different in this world other than the norm, and you'd get looked down upon as the craziest, weirdest, strangest, demon that they've ever seen. It gets to so many ridiculous levels when people feel threatened by something that is not what they're used to seeing every day or hearing every day. I think that women actually bring a lot more color to sports journalism than ever before. And you have women commentators all the time during the WNBA, which is apparently not a threat because nobody watches WNBA anymore. No, not true. Thank God for Candace Parker, because I guess if she wasn't attractive, people wouldn't even give a damn about women's sports at all. She being one of many women who are out there as symbols of their sport. But God forbid they don't show a little sexuality to make people feel okay that they're feminine. All right, I feel better. Then they don't take them seriously. Jamel, if anything, is out there becoming more of a brighter star just for what? Being her. Not for doing anything different, not for posing nude, not for dyeing her hair, not for dating a white guy, not for doing anything that would be considered shocking. Just being herself. And to me, that is the loudest, proudest message as a female that you should put out there in the sports world that is dominated by male, chauvinistic, fragile egos who really feel like they should be the only ones talking about sports. I think it's really sad, and it's very limited, and to me, the way the NFL is and how it's become a watered down product, you should be thankful that women even still want to talk about the NFL. Because at this point, there are 10 times more interesting things to talk about, whether it be college football or NBA is starting to look better now. So I really feel like women add to that. Sometimes you don't want to see the same boxy looking, angry, bitter dude who's been doing it since they were 25 years old and they just look just as bitter and gray as they did when they were younger and eager. I'd rather see a woman who can get nothing but more pretty as she gets older and the more that she's on TV. Shout out to Pam. My girl Pam, who's always commentating during NFL Fox, she's still out there. Even if we all clowned her, even myself made a couple of jokes about her weave. But she's still out there representing, and chick knows how to report, and she knows her damn stuff. So I went on that soapbox. I'm down. I'm coming down now. AJ Suburban Princess. Gonna plug again my email, ajradiocaller@aol.com. Hit me up on IG, AJ Radio Caller, and my FB page, AJ the Sports Radio Caller. Sometimes I still like to call into the midday show if I can for Joe and John. But at this point now it's kind of hard because with my new job, I kind of in an area now where it's probably not going to be a good idea to call all the time. But I still try to call, and if not, I'm always listening. But I suggest that you, whether you're a woman or a guy, continue to support your local radio shows, whether or not you feel like you're tugged between WIP and 97.5. Get to know the podcast as well. There are so many podcasts like myself here on Spreaker that like to give their views around the horn. Around the NFL is on here on Spreaker. Support those shows. Give them love. And give love to the women empowered female broadcasts as well. Miss Bougie, who is it? Miss Bad and Miss Bougie, who I love, that go on, they're on SoundCloud, they're on iTunes, and I'm sure they'll be somewhere else, but those girls have a great podcast, and support that whole inner community, because eventually that'll be the next big thing. And I'm just glad I'm joining Spreaker when I am, because maybe once I get better and I get better production, I can do a lot more with my voice on here. I will have a following myself, and who knows, maybe I'll be the first Black podcast to be very successful to go into primetime television, kids. You just never know. Dream big, my friends, dream big. Anyway, that's all my time. AJ, the radio girl, sports radio caller, should I say. AJ, the Suburban Princess, will return as soon as this week wraps up. We will be engaged in Eagle Giant mayhem. And I hope that the next broadcast I will be talking about a win, baby, and a new outlook from my birds. Peace out. Take care. Bird Gang for life.